great to be joined by this man, Terrell Furman. He does tremendous work over at the Sports Gambling Podcast Network, taking a look at football. I know that he's been tearing it up in the WNBA and so much more this year, and it's always great to have you aboard. Thank you, Terrell.
Hey, Greg, it's great to be back. I'm here. I don't have my blazer today, but I do have my dad's New York Giants chain that he made himself. So, I just had to come sport that. Yes, give me the full shot because I need everybody to see the best team in the
Yes.
world. Now, granted, I'm going to be very impartial when I'm talking about the Giants, but just know this is where my heart lies for sure. My dad raised me right.
That is an absolutely awesome chain, by the way. A quadruple A plus to your father. He deserves some sort of a medal for Father of the Year award because that is absolutely awesome. And you're speaking of the New York Giants, and I think that there's been a little bit of disrespect for them in the market. I don't know if they're going to be able to pull off as many one-score wins as they did last year.
Hey,
That's
y'all heard he said it. He said it, not me. I
Yep.
didn't say it. He said it.
Exactly, and I don't know if they're going to be able to win as many one-score games as they did last year. That was a little bit of an anomaly, but seeing them at 7.5 in terms of the total in terms of wins, I just think that that's a little bit too low. I've got them more around 8-9 wins, being a fringe playoff team. I want to get your thoughts on the Giants since you've got the chain on and everything like that. I feel like 7.5 is a little bit too low for their win total.
Okay, so here's the last year it was 7, and the 7 was juiced because I got the 7 at plus 105, and I cashed that bet on that future easily. Just so everybody remembers, I cashed over 7 last year, plus 105, very easily. Now we're sitting here at 7.5, plus 100. Like, do they not think this team is capable of continuing to be better? Brian Dable has shown last year that he can give this team life. He can keep the offense moving. It's something that the Giants hadn't had for years. A very good offense. He has a very good offensive scheme. He has now supplied himself with talent, not only with Saquon Barkley and he coming back for another year, but now you have Darren Waller, who they had to take out of training camp practice because Daniel Jones was throwing to him too much. It wasn't because he was hurt. It's because Daniel Jones got pigeonholed throwing him the ball because he was so good and kept getting open. So it's like they add so many other options. You get Jalen Hyatt, the Blinokoff winner from the draft this year, and so now you have a whole bunch of talent that you can spread the ball around to. And Dable has proven that he is a good coach with a very good defensive coordinator in Went Martindale, and that defense should be a lot better. I'm not saying that the Giants are going out here and being a 10 win, 11 win, 12 win team, but 7.5 is just a little bit too much disrespectful. I think at the very least, the Giants do similar to what they did to their 9-7-1 game year last year, 9-8, maybe 10-7, somewhere around there. I think is where the Giants fall.
And heck, even at an 8-9, you're still able to cash you over on 7.5 as well. I think that they're between an 8-9 and a 9-win team personally, so we're in agreement there. It's Terrell Furman, who does great work over at the Sports Gambling Podcast Network, joining me right here on the Greg Peterson Experience. We're taking a look at the NFC East, and as we know, in the NFC East, the reigning champions, that would be the Philadelphia Eagles. They were able to make the Super Bowl last year. Their win total is 11.5. They are the favorite to be able to win the division, and you have to lay north of minus 125 at most books for them to be able to win the division. What's your outlook on the Eagles? Because I do think that they're the rightful favorite in the division, but you were getting their division more around even money towards the beginning of part of the offseason. Right now, DraftKings are right around minus 135, been fluctuating a little bit to be able to win the division, and that to me just has gotten a little bit too juicy in a division in which nobody's repeated in 2 decades.
Yeah, it's brutal. It's and ultimately, me as a fan of the division, paying attention to the division, I understand that nobody repeats because the division is so competitive. So when teams see one team win the division, all 3 other teams, regardless of how good they may be that year, all 3 other teams try to retool to top that one team. That's why the NFC East continues to have a new champion, new champion, new champion. Unlike, a lot of divisions where like the Chiefs continue to win, the Bills are continuing to win, and so here with the Eagles, not only did they win the division, they went to the Super Bowl. Like, not only do you have a division hangover, you have a Super Bowl hangover in there. And I'm just thinking about week 1 against the Patriots, where they're a 4-point favorite on the road, I believe it is. I think they're on the road for that game. But Super Bowl losers, 3-15-1, 3-15-2, I'm sorry, ATS since 2003. If the Eagles lose that first game to the Patriots, is that not a omen of things to come? Is that not saying that, hey, this might be that kind of Super Bowl hangover year where the Eagles just slightly disappoint? An 11.5 win total says you basically got to be perfect. You basically have to be perfect. You don't have much room for error. You can't have a slide where you lose 2 straight, 3 straight, or you're going to kill that win total. And I just think they haven't given the Eagles much room for error for this season, especially because this is still a team that's learning to gel. They're adding a lot of new pieces to that defense, even though it's going to be a good defense. It's a lot of new pieces, and that doesn't always work. Good talent doesn't always mesh with each other. So I think it's a little bit of a hangover for the Eagles, honestly. I'm going under the 11.5 this season.
It does help a little bit that most of these guys it feels like they just drafted Georgia Bulldogs, and that's not a bad way to go with regards to building
It's
up your
not.
defense. Offense may be a little bit more suspect, but for the defense, that's relatively solid. But as we know, there's such a learning curve with first and second year defensive players as well. So I do think that there is a little bit of trepidation there. And I know that the team that is one of the biggest out there in the division and in all of football, that'd be the Dallas Cowboys. They're right now the number 2 shot to be able to win the division as well. You're able to find them right around a plus 190. What's your outlook on them? Because I do think that they are one of the teams of fascination, not just in the NFC, but really in all of football because, as we know, the offense, they were able to put up big numbers, but we saw Kellen Moore get the boot. He is now with the Chargers, and they're going to be probably, in my opinion, going a little bit different on offense after we did see them decide to not re-sign Ezekiel Elliott along with the coordinator moves. I think that it's going to be really interesting to see if the Cowboys can reach that 10.5 win total that is currently hung up on them.
So I will start this by saying I hate the Cowboys. I hate the Cowboys. I don't have to be impartial. Nobody's ever said that a sports handicapper or a sports betting analyst had to be impartial. I hate the Cowboys. I truly do. But with that being said, I think that history is on their side of the fact that there hasn't been a repeat champion in this division for going on 20 years now. And so I think that when you look at what Micah Parsons is going to do for that defense, being strictly on the defensive line, because they said that this season he's going to primarily be on that defensive line. He may drop back in coverage for a couple of sets, but he's going to be rushing the passer every single play. I don't think people understand how important that is to have somebody that's that talented rushing the passer every single play. You cannot take plays off. You can't sit here and say, oh, he's dropping back into coverage this play. We can get a playoff because he's not rushing the quarterback. So how good Michael Parsons is I think he can actually take that defense to another level and make them very similar to what they were last year. The Cowboys were not a bad team last year. They were a 10-win team last year. And so here's how I want to play the Cowboys. And this is objectively speaking. But some people are going to take it however they want to take it. I have an exacta, or a kind of exacta, top 2 in the NFC East. Any order, doesn't matter what 2. It could be 1-2, 2-1, it doesn't matter. Giants, Cowboys, top 2 in the NFC East, 11-1. If you just sit here and say that there is not going to be a repeat champion, so you cross the Eagles out, and you say that we don't believe in Sam Howell as a quarterback, and you cross the Commanders out, Giants and Cowboys have a very good chance of being top 2 in the NFC East, and at 11-1 odds, I think that's very much worth it in saying that, hey, maybe the Eagles really have that hangover, and while they're still a good team, they end up still being third in this division because this is a very, very competitive division.
And it feels like we're in lockstep that the one team that really can't compete for the division is the Washington Commanders. That is a team that I want absolutely no part of whatsoever, but what we always want a part of is your great analysis. Terrell, you do great work over at the Sports Gambling Podcast Network, and I always appreciate it. Thank you.
Definitely. Thank you for having me on. And next time, I'm going to dress up a little bit snazzier for you than this time. I had the chain on this time, so I didn't want to put blazer on, but I'm going to have you next time. We're going to be matching.
I appreciate it, and you were very well dressed. The chain, it gets an A+ from me.
Go to VSiN.com/subscribe to become a VSiN Pro subscriber today.